Well, welcome everyone, and thanks for joining us. My name's Chris Perkins. I'm part of the Risesmart UK team, and I'm joined today by our coach team leader and some of our coaches who will all introduce themselves in a moment or two. We are really excited to be launching our career coaching program in partnership with Life Redefined. And the first thing to say is this program isn't just about how to get a job, although that might be a goal you would have if you were coming out of a career break or retirement, and we can certainly support you with that. But what our coaches are really experts in is how to make the right choices and manage all the transitions that you experience later in your career. So we're going to dispel some myths about what retiring from a fully employed role or corporate life would be like. We'll give you our views on the market, the world of work at the moment, and talk about what you can expect from a coaching relationship that's focused on your work life and setting a new purpose for yourself with your skills, your experience, and all the wisdom you've accumulated up to now. We'll cover as many questions as we can in the time that we've got available, but let's start with some introductions. Joe, if I can come to you first, can you introduce yourself and tell us what someone can expect from their coach and the resources that they'll get on this program?
Sure, thanks, Chris. Yes, my name's Jo Sturdy, and I lead the team of coaches here and at Randstad Risesmart UK. My role in this instance will be to have the initial telephone conversation with you just to find out what it is that you would really like to get out of this program and to be able to match you to the best coach for your particular needs. We have a network of highly qualified professional coaches, all of whom have undergone our Risesmart University training as well. And they've been selected specifically for this program because all of them have been through similar processes to yourself, in that they've worked in a corporate environment and then have retrained to become coaches. But this program will be highly tailored for your specific needs, and we provide a wealth of online resources and webinars which your coach will be able to guide you through to help you identify those that will be of most benefit to you.
Great, thanks, Joe. And coaches, if you can tell us your name and maybe in 30 seconds, what's one thing you would bring to your approach to your coaching work with people making transitions later in their career? Charlotte, if I could come to you first.
Hi, my name is Charlotte, and so I'm going to just focus on my approach here, which is, so I bring in a very positive reflection with it, starting with an overview of everything that you've done, liked or disliked, and then working that down to a focus on working out what your value is, all that comes with that, and how you'd like to take that forward into your next phase.
Great, thanks, Jeremy.
My name's Jeremy Canning. I'm one of the coaches here, along with Charlotte and David. So one of the things that I really love working with people about is on their personal brand. And your personal brand changes over your entire life, actually. And particularly when you're used to working in a corporate environment, you have very much a professional identity, and perhaps your personal identity is attached to that. So it's really redefining what that new brand for you looks like going into this phase and this stage of your career. So I really like working with people to try and redefine that brand and articulate it forward into whatever it is they'd like to do.
Great, thanks. David?
Hello, I'm David, and as Chris has mentioned, I've made a transition from a senior role in corporate through retirement, and now I'm a coach. But what I like to focus on with the people I'm coaching is stepping back and helping people consider what's really important to them, what was important to them when they were at work, how those things can be replaced when people leave work, and also help people understand their core values so that when they plan their retirement, we can focus on putting together a plan of activities and things that will fulfill what's important to them and what matches their values.
Terrific. Thanks, David. Deborah, thanks for being able to join us. Could you give us a quick introduction? What's one thing you bring to your approach to your coaching work?
Well, I think, hi, my name's Deborah. I think the focus that I have for coaching is really understanding the individual and also introducing some of the ideas and experiences that I've had doing a similar thing, and trying to help people to think more broadly rather than just go for the one thing at once. So it's a juggling thing, I think, for me. I'm a bit of an opportunistic, favoured. That's my approach to look around and see what's going on and see if there's anything that you can develop, which you may not have thought of.
Terrific, thank you. So let's dive right in. The first question that we've had come in is, what are some of the challenges that you can help me overcome as people are facing different choices and decisions about their professional working life later in their career? What are some of the things we could help with? David, can I come to you on that one first?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Chris. I think the biggest challenge which I experience, and I find nearly all of the people I've coached through retirement have, is a transition out of full-time work into a world where there's complete freedom and a blank diary and complete autonomy as to what they do next, typically. Sometimes there are constraints, but often people find moving away from the environment where they had a boss, where they had meetings in the diary, deadlines, to, hey, I can now choose to do anything I like as long as I have financial security. So the way you help there is to help people to step back and think what they really want out of their lives and out of their work, what fulfills them, what's important to them, and then we can steer them into particular directions, whether that's non-exec director or charity work or part-time work or new hobbies, new activities and so on, which match their values and their desires and their strengths. And often people want to contribute back into society, and we can help people do that as well.
Great. Thanks. And anyone else have any thoughts, sort of things that you can help people address?
Yeah, I'll jump in, Chris. I'm really just following on from David. Obviously, absolutely, it's about transition. For me, a lot of that is around finding yourself first, and really kind of anchoring yourself and understanding your natural abilities, your learned expertise, how they can be transferable, and also that those softer skills you've got. A wealth of experience, a wealth of many years seeing many different sort of facets of life, etc., can really bring some additional value to any organization, but or anything that they see in life, compared to some of the younger ones. And the giving back part particularly, imparting their advice, imparting their experiencing, doing some mentoring, etc., as part of their role, can be a really fulfilling aspect of what they're looking to do next.
Great, thanks, Jeremy. One more comment before we move on to our next question.
So I'm very happy to jump in here. My experience of this personally and with the clients I've worked with is that, actually, following on from what both Jeremy and David have said, is the prioritizing, is that transition from being able to be at everybody else's time and choice, and to be able to turn that back onto yourself and to think, right now, I actually can choose what I want to do. So to be able to then look back and think, well, what have I enjoyed? What have I enjoyed, and what would I like to leave behind? And how do I want to use it? So very often it's about choosing the priorities and choosing your own priorities, and then learning how to communicate those, be it to family, to yourself, to organizations, and out into the world, if you choose that work is the way forward.
Great, thanks, Charlotte. And our next question, probably related to that, is why should I consider having a coach at this stage in my life? So people have obviously built up a ton of experience, lots of knowledge and wisdom over the course of their careers, and then reach this juncture where they're thinking about what to do next, and why consider a coach. Charlotte, do you want to start us off on that?
Oh, thanks, Chris. Yeah, very happy to. I put this into a very sort of succinct expression to clients I work with, and I said there's a huge difference between what you can do and what you want to do. And this is where the differentiation lies. And that is often quite a challenge. It's about being able to take the overview and not focus on what the market wants so much, but more about what you want. And the challenge being to put that focus back on you, focusing on the things that give you energy, that give you pleasure, and putting your needs first, working out what they are, and then, how you're going to transfer those back into whatever you choose to do.
Great. Thanks. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Can I jump in? Sorry, Jeremy, can I?
There you go, Deborah.
I think, when you've worked and probably in quite a senior position, what you're doing is you're reflecting very much on others, either as colleagues, as a leader, or somebody who's being led, perhaps. And I think, when that reflection goes, when you haven't got that opportunity to bounce off people, it can be quite lonely to sort of set yourself up and think, right, what do I do now? So for me, a coach is quite a practical reference point, somebody that, you can actually say whatever you feel you want to say out loud in order to see how that lands. So I think the coach has some opportunity to replace some of those roles that this individual would have been referencing through their career at various stages.
Yeah, so I was just going to follow on. There are so many options because you've got such a wealth of experience. It's really, where do you direct your skills and your value and your impact, and just not knowing what that could look like. Often in people's careers, they've quite often been predetermined, or they've been promoted, or they've been headhunted, and actually it's kind of what Charlotte's been alluding to quite consistently. It's now a great time for you to be able to sort of turn that around and decide what you want to do. But sometimes people just don't know where to look and don't know where to start. So really having that ally with them to help unpick those options and the options that could best suit them is really, really useful, and make the most of the next 5, 10, 15 years of contributing back to society.
Thanks, Joe. David, Joe, anything you want to add?
Thank you, Chris. Just to add to that, I think what I find I'm doing is helping people open their minds to different possibilities rather than to fall into a default way of thinking. So many people I've coached out of retirement immediately think, I must get some more work, or I must fill my time with this. And what I find myself doing is just gently provoking them into, are you sure that's what you want to do? Have you thought about this? Is there a different mindset as you move into retirement than you had when you were working? Perhaps you don't need to be achieving something 5 times a day. Maybe you can spend a bit more time on your life-work balance. So just helping people think out of the box more broadly, and really focus on what, as I've said, is really important to them now they're no longer working full time.
Thanks, David. The next question that's come in is, I've been out of an employed role for a while, thinking about re-entering the working world in some way. What are some of the things you're seeing in the current market that I might need to be aware of? Jeremy, can you start us off on that one?
Sure, thanks, Chris. So there's definitely a movement, and I guess, being with 55 Redefined is a good indicator of that, of the value of individuals who are at the sort of the autumn or the winter of their career, if I can call it that, just because the amount of skills that they've got and the amount of value they've got to offer. The sorts of options that are there at the moment, and there's a lot of them, can be something like a non-executive directorships or board advisory type roles, or even just other types of advisory roles. There's portfolio careers where you don't have one particular role. Maybe you do 1 or 2 things a week, for example, and that could include something around giving back as well as something that might be a little bit more commercial. There's entrepreneurship. So lots of people in this phase of their career like to do a little hustle, or like to pick up one of their passions and try and make that as a contributing or a significant factor within their life. there's lots and lots of options, and I think now more than ever, it's being more embraced by society and by organisations. So it's a great time to be this age.
Good stuff. Thanks, Jeremy. Anyone else? Your thoughts?
I've been doing a portfolio career for quite a long time, actually. Probably about 15 years in total, which makes me, in this group. And I have never seen so much opportunity as there is now for this part of society. And I think it's just such a fantastic time to be interested in repackaging what you want to do with your life for foreseeable future. There's huge amounts of research. There is also this thing about the DEI, diversity and inclusion, overcoming some of these issues. But that's actually a really great challenge, isn't it? Because what you want to do is you want to sell the benefits of, getting involved in something where people can pull on all your experience and your skills. So it's not sort of comfortable. It's actually quite exciting and perhaps a little bit challenging as well, which is why a coach is always a good person to just have in the wings. So I think I agree with Jeremy. The opportunities are whatever you want them to be, really.
Yeah, lots to look forward to. Joe, in terms of what you hear from our coaches or from some of our participants, anything you would add in terms of what we see in the market at the moment?
I absolutely agree with what's been said. It is an exciting time. I think just keeping an eye on what's available out there, just approach this opportunity with an open mind and just take the time to consider every available opportunity. Some of the best things that have happened to me, and since I've sort of moved into this era of life, have been when I've just remained open to them and just given it some time to think. And as Jeremy said, your coach is your best ally, gives you an opportunity to really think, research, talk through and explore everything that's available to you and just remain open.
Yeah, good advice. Thank you. The next question, or it's more of a request, can you give me an example of someone you've coached and the outcomes you helped them achieve? Or maybe work around everyone to provide an example of this. Deborah, do you want to start us off? Anyone come to mind?
Yeah, absolutely. I worked with a really nice woman who had been working in the banking industry in a commercial bank. So it was a fairly full-on, type of role, which I'm sure people will be able to identify with. And she had already decided, really, I think, in her mind that she wanted to throw it all up into the air and make it land into something portfolio. And what we did was we worked on that. And in the end, she set up a small business, which happened to be a tiling business because she had this obsession with wanting to learn how to be a tiler who could go out and do people's kitchens, bathrooms, etc. And also create mosaic furniture, garden furniture, which I think everybody will have some idea what that looks like. But at the same time, she was interested in community, and she trained as a carer and started to work professionally in a caring organisation. And then she took up the trumpet, which she'd been doing when she was much younger, before her family arrived, and was the happiest person she was just loving every minute of it. And it was for her just fun.
Fantastic. Great. Who'd like to go next?
I can go next. I mean, I've got loads of examples of different people who've done quite unusual things. I had a woman who became an HGV driver. I had a guy who wanted to work in a brewery and did so. I think the one that stands out for me was a lady who had been an area manager, very demanding job. And when we went through her values, the big thing for her was to do something meaningful in society. And she did two things, actually. One was she set up a dog walking business, which ticked her boxes around fitness. and exercise, as well as something that could be kicked off really quickly because there's no investment required. She set herself up as a sole trader and found that there's lots of dogs needed walking in her community from people who are still in full-time work. But the one that really impressed me was she started a cafe where she employed vulnerable adults on the staff only in her local town, which is a huge undertaking. And she used a lot of her skills from business and clearly her passion to help and to work in that particular community. And that was a big thing. And she took some more holiday and she spent more time with the family. So, portfolio approach, it ticked all the boxes for her.
Yeah, I think finding a new purpose is increasingly important. Sounds like she certainly did that. Yeah. Thanks, David. Who's next?
Want me to jump in?
Yeah, sure, Jeremy. Thanks.
So yeah, very interesting. I had a very interesting guy who was deeply into sort of data and analytics, and he felt he probably wanted to continue to do that in that vein of things. And whilst he was looking, and he felt it was going to take a while, and he wanted to take his time to find, his next career role, he started a regenerative farming business in India, and ended up doing some travel backwards and forwards there. He did ultimately get his dream job with one of the leading FMCGs, but his regenerative farming business or organization in India has really, really taken off, and he runs both now. And his current employer actually helps sponsor and support that regenerative farming business as well. So he's really managed to find his purpose whilst he was looking for this full-time job, and actually was really surprised when this big global organization also wanted to get involved and help that. So really nice story, sort of with both sides of the purpose and something he had a passion play for, and also something that he was a global leading sort of data guy with a global leading firm. So that was my standout story, or one of many.
Thanks, Jeremy. Charlotte, who comes to mind for you?
So the lady who comes to mind for me was head of HR in a global corporation. So big, busy, challenging role. And interestingly, knew she wanted to step away, was very concerned about losing her identity that was very important to her. She was also mother in a very large family with the generational demands, as it were, the children and things. And her biggest concern was that the family were going to sweep up this sort of concept that actually if she stopped working, that she was going to be available to them. And so her opportunity really was to with the coaching was to actually be able to stand back and look at what she might be able to find in her community outside work to replace being the go-to person at work. Had masses of energy, so definitely wanted to keep going. And as we looked back into her past, the thing that she'd most loved doing was running dancing classes. And so she set up and started off small because she was very clear she didn't want this to become a full-time business. But also we used a sort of various exercises for her to be able to look at how she wanted to use her time. At one stage she was saying, perhaps I'll go and work in a supermarket. And then we, because she wanted contact with all the people, and we looked at actually in reality how that would feel, having come from the role that she'd been in. So she was delighted. And the other side of it was actually, she didn't need me to go through nuts and bolts of how to do what she wanted to do. She just needed somebody to help her, put her first, work out where she was going to get a lot of pleasure in her time, and then to work out how to communicate it to family and friends. That was one of the bigger challenges, to sort of be able to stand back and say, right, this is, I love you all very much, but actually this is how I intend to spend my time. And was delighted with the result, really, really thrilled with it, invigorated, went off, had a plan, as with all plans, they're very flexible. But yeah, very excited.
Yeah, interesting sometimes that the challenge is if people have to communicate to others that I'm not just going to go off and sit in an armchair and watch daytime telly. There's other things I want to do, and they're all great examples a real variety of examples of what people have gone on to do after the more kind of conventional employed career. Joe, if I can maybe come to you to finish off, if someone is watching this and is thinking about taking up career coaching, what advice would you have for them as to how to approach it, how to get the most out of it?
I think to get the most out of this experience is to really just take every opportunity to keep an open mind, to use your coach as a sounding board, as I said before, as an ally, and just don't rush into it. Don't rush into the first thing that comes to mind. As Charlotte mentioned, sit back and think about, how is this going to help your whole of life well-being? How is this going to fit into absolutely every other element of your life and really contribute in a positive way to it? I think that sometimes it's, well, as I say, when life happens, when you're busy making plans, there can be something that comes out of left field, and it might be the perfect answer for you. Just don't know if you rush into the first thing. So yeah, take your time, work with your coach, and they will be absolutely your best ally in this journey. Sound
advice. Thank you very much. Having that sounding board, it's for the individual to kind of make those decisions and work through that plan, but with the support of a coach. And I just want to say thank you to everyone for taking the time to share those examples. For people watching, there are profiles on all of our coaches, the people you see here, and others involved in this program that you can view or download if you want some more information. Thanks to our coaches for taking the time to share those examples with us. And if anyone wants any more information on some of the detail around the program or how it works, then please get in touch. But as a team, we look forward to working with you in the future. Thanks, everybody.